Hi, I'm Catherine, the Resourceful Lawyer, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use ClickUp's form review to easily, quickly assign work to your team and make sure they get everything they need and the timeline and expectations are set up in a flash. So stay tuned. All right, so in ClickUp, I find that form view is often overlooked. People don't always understand how to use it. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how you can use it and some tips for making the most of it. So here I have just my random tasks list, and I just want to go and like I'm going along in my day and I think, oh, I want to ask so-and-so to research this issue or draft a memo on this or turn their research into a memo for the client, whatever it is. So how is the best way to make sure that that gets done and communicate key information? So first of all, I like to start with a list, and I'm going to look at my list and I think, what fields do I want? So I might say, so in my fields, I want to know who the assignee is, who am I going to send this assignment for, what's the due date for this assignment, what's the priority, that's just a internal one for me here, so I'm just going to hide that. And I've got some relationship and rollup fields that I play around with for other things, so we don't need those right now either. So I'm just going to hide those, and I think about what else would I like to have. Well, one thing I think is really helpful as a former associate getting these kinds of assignments that I think is really useful. And also, as I do my freelance work and I work with clients that way, I also like to know how much time, like what's the time estimate? And I find, a lot of times there's that disconnect between partners and associates between, oh, it'll just take a couple of hours and it really takes longer. So it kind of is a benchmark. To me, it's like, what's the time frame? Just so I know. And if it's feeling like I'm getting lost in the weeds or going down a rabbit hole and it's taking a little bit longer, then I know to have that conversation with whoever gave me that assignment. So I like to, and that is a column, a custom field or a field that's just built into ClickUp. So we're going to show and hide that time estimate here, time estimate there. Of course, due date, like I said, is very important. Priorities can be really important. Time estimate, another thing that, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. If you want to just have one list and where everything goes, and maybe you go through and sort it later into your client folders or however you have your ClickUp arranged, then you want to, you might want to have a way of tracking, like the client name or the matter name, if that's helpful, or the department or practice group, however your ClickUp is organized. So you might want to have a custom field that will get the task to the right person, and maybe you can have an automation that follows up on it. So if you check the land use group, or you check it's this matter, then it's going to go automatically get moved to some other list, or somebody might have to manually go through and look at those fields and move them to the right list, things like that. So that's kind of the higher level. Let's just build the form here in this video. And so you think about your custom fields. What do you want? So one other thing that I like to have is who submitted it. Let me see if I have that on here. No, I know I have it in the library though. So I'm going to there's a drop down to submitted by. Pretty sure I have it submitted by here. I know I have one that's client. Okay, so I am actually going to create a field to show us where I can list my team. It could actually be a people field. So let's see, I want to add a custom field, and I'm going to, let's see if I have it here. If your whole team is on ClickUp, then you can have a people field where you could have, I'll just use this one, use this field, requester. So who's making the assignment? You could use a supervisor, you could use a idea contributor, responsible attorney, whatever makes sense for you. It says that it's going to be a people field that you can populate in that form. So I'm just going to use requester. I'm going to say I'm going to use that field. And why are we not showing it? Let's see here. Show hide. Requester should be here. Oh. All right, let's go check that one out again. People, it's a people field. And I want to use the requester. So if I don't have this, I can create it. If your whole team is on ClickUp, you just create a people field. If like with my freelance, I have different firms I work with. So this would actually be a custom field for each firm to list the people that I work with the most. So if I get an assignment from Steve or Joan or, Simon or Max or whoever, then that's helpful for me. Then I know like where that work product needs to go when I'm done with it, who's going to review it. So that's you could even put reviewer in there, whatever you want to name it. So if it's just if your whole team is already in ClickUp, then you can just use the people field and that's really helpful. So I'm going to say assigned by, let's give this a name here. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Assigned by, and I'm going to add that column. Not quite sure why we are not showing up here. Okay, so if your whole team is in ClickUp, you might want to, you can just use a people field because one field I find is helpful when people are submitting assignments is to have them select their name if it's like a drop down, or if, like I said, if the whole team is in ClickUp, you just use a people field and you can have people select themselves so they know who is the assigning attorney. Or even if if you ask your secretary or somebody else to, hey, create an assignment for so-and-so to do this, then like that person can enter, okay, this is actually assigned by Catherine. And so even though it's not created by Catherine. So I find that is good. So I'm going to create a new field and it's going to be my people field and I'm going to call it assigned by. And I'm going to show guests and I'm going to show, don't actually want to select multiple people because usually it's going to be one person, but you could keep that as an option if you wanted to. Let's try refreshing and seeing if that brings up our custom fields. Okay, so now we've got our assigned by column. It's going to be different than our assignee column. And another thing I like I said, you want to figure out how to get the matter number. If you want to be responsible for putting in billing numbers, you could do that, client IDs or a matter name or something like that. So I recommend using a task field for that. A text field for that. So I believe I have one already in my library. So I'm going to use a short text area. let's see. This would be our client code maybe, or matter name. I like to use that one. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. So I've got my matter name, and that's a text field. And let's see if there's anything else. I often like to have files if there are any relevant files, or even a link. If you use a Dropbox or something like that, you can actually use the web link and put that in there. So that'll be a website custom field. So again, I can use a field from my library because I've created these forms for my freelance legal work clients to submit work to me. So if it's a Dropbox link or other website link, I can go ahead and use the file link or path. And I also like to add any other files. So this could be samples or relevant file. If you're responding to discovery, they, the person making the assignment can upload the discovery to that, to the actual task. So that's really helpful. Let's see. So that will be a file custom field. Like I said, I've already created it. It's in my library. So I'm just going to go ahead and, docs. So we'll use the docs field here. And those are for uploading files. All right, so now we've figured out kind of what information we want to capture in our form that's the most helpful. And so how do we create a form? And I'm going to show you that next. Okay, so now we know what fields we want to use, what information we want to capture. How do we actually get it into a form? So we are going to go up here to we've got our list name here, and we've got different views we can choose. So I want to add a view. And you'll see one of the options is a form view. And so we are going to use that. I usually like to pin it. And I can give it a special name. I can call it assignments or intake maybe. Okay. Team assignments, whatever makes you realize what it is. If you're using different forms for different clients, then you might want to specify this is for this client, because that's going to help when you bookmark it or whatever you do with it later. You want to make sure you're using the right form so that it's going into the right space. So remember, you can create forms at any level of the hierarchy in ClickUp. So you want to make sure you have it going to the right list or the right space wherever you you want to make sure the form is associated with the logical place in ClickUp so that you have the right connections there. Otherwise, you're going to get tasks and be like, I created that task, where did it go? So you want to make sure you check that. And I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to add this form. I pin it so that it's always really easy to find later. There we go. All right, so here is our form that are created, and there's a lot of different options over here. You can, make sure that if you're creating the form, make sure you're on the editing. That's the default when you first create it. But later on, if you want to actually use the form and you're using it from within ClickUp itself, you want to switch to the viewing tab. Over here, you've got your style options. If you want to change this logo, you can do that. If you want to, use different colors, you can do that. You can have ClickUp branding, not ClickUp branding. Add reCAPTCHA. I use that when I'm submitting like forms and I'm publishing them on my website or links on LinkedIn or something like that, where it's more public. But for something like this, is just going to be an internal use. Then, I don't think you need the reCAPTCHA. Fields full width, it's just a style choice. I do like the show link to submit another response. I think that's really helpful, because if you're just going down your to-do list, you can just submit them one after the other instead of having to go back to the form every time. So it's just right there for you. And again, you want to make sure you got list of saved tasks. So where are these tasks going to go to? And you can choose any list in your workspace. And if you always want them assigned to somebody in particular, you can do that. If you have task templates that you like, you can, apply a template. Of course, it's going to be hard because you might have different types of tasks. So maybe you have a discovery template, but maybe this isn't just for discovery. It's other types of things too. So you want to make sure that, you don't want to use a template and have it not really apply to the task you're creating. Okay, so how do we do this? So we have this form. It's just blank right now. I like to use this description area to give some instructions. So one of the things I like to say is that for the assignment name, so I'll say use this, like, why is this form here? Use this form to All right, so now we've created our custom fields. Here is the form. I've showed you some of the style options that we have. So now how do we build the form? So we've already chosen our custom fields. So the most important one probably, well, actually, let me back up. The first thing that I think is really helpful is this form description. You can use that to kind of cue people to, like, when do you use this form? So I'll just simply say, use this form to submit assignments. It could be, if it's going to be a matter specific form, you can say related to this matter, or if it's a practice group form, for the practice group, or anyway, so to any associates or the litigation team, if you want to have special instructions there. So I'm just going to say use this form to submit assignments to the team. Just kind of generic, just to give you an idea. And then I always like to add my pro tip, which is to bookmark this form in your browser for easy access. Like, remember when I mentioned, like, you're thinking of something pops into your head, you can just quickly go click on the form in your browser, bookmarks, and enter your information into the assignment for easy access from anywhere, right? And the other tip I like to add is for the task name or assignment name, in ClickUp world, everything's tasks, right? So it's task name, but you could call it assignment name, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So let's say you wanted to call it assignment name. I like to say, keep it brief, 5 words or less is ideal. So this is because I know when I first rolled this out to a client, we had people submitting forms with like this big long description of the assignment. Of course, it's really important to have that description and capture that information, but in the task name is not the place to do it. So we want to make sure that that information gets captured, but let's put it where it belongs. So I always say, keep that assignment name really, really short. So okay, so how do we do this? We just take obviously task name is probably the most important field we need. It's I would make it a required field. And I like to put an example. So, could be like EG draft discovery responses. You can, when we did choose the matter and have a field to add in the matter name, but sometimes it's helpful to even include that there, just so that when the list shows up, it might be easier to see that. So that's my, so that's the placeholder text that people will see, and they'll say like, okay, I see, it's just supposed to be something really short, because not everybody reads the instructions. Although as lawyers, I think we're all I call myself a compulsive reader, and I think that's pretty common in with lawyers. So anyway, so we've got that priority, if that's important, or if you want to, you can make that required or not required. And that way, if it's not required, because it just won't have a priority. I like to make it required because it just kind of makes people think like, how important is this? How urgent is it? And they can always say it's, high, low, normal, and that's the clue right there too. Due date obviously is probably the next most important thing. And I like to say that's required. Again, I talked about this before, we also created the time estimate. I think that's a really helpful communication tool between partners or assigning attorneys and receiving attorneys to just kind of make sure everyone's on the same page about the scope of the work. If you put it's only a 2-hour research project and someone's an hour in and they're like, oh my gosh, like there's so much to do here, then maybe there's a disconnect there, or maybe it just is longer than you think it's going to be, or maybe this person's just not being as efficient. So it's that sparks that conversation. So I really like having the time estimate. Again, you can make these required or not required, whatever works best for you and your practice. I personally like it as being required. It just sort of is that it just makes everybody think a little bit more. You probably, obviously, okay, another thing that's important, you want to know who's this for. So assignment, assignee, again, required. And let's see, assigned by, I talked about that when we created that custom field. I think that's really helpful. So the person can select themselves. So you could even change it to be like, choose your name or choose yourself from here to, like I said, and then again, you can make that required, not required. That task, like who created that task, is automatically going to be kept in the task information. So you don't necessarily task history, so you don't necessarily need the assignment unless you do have assigned by person. But unless you have, like I said, people entering assignments who are not the assigning attorney, then I think it's helpful to have that. Again, it doesn't have to be required. So I also like to have the matter name. In fact, I like to have that right after the task name. Again, it's just helpful to know, what matter is this for, so that things can get sorted. This is a text field. You could use a drop down if you have a relatively small client list or matter list. You could have that, you could just have them all in a drop down field and people can just choose the matter or choose the client. That would work. Otherwise, you might have some manual sorting that has to happen or tags that need to be added on later, but at least initially just is a written description of who this is, what matter this is relevant to. And again, I like to make, if we have like Dropboxes or other kinds of links, we want to put those in. I definitely don't make that required because some things don't have that. This could be, like if you use Dropbox or NetDocs or something like that, just to kind of tell people where the relevant files are or where they should save things or whatever. And then if you have some samples, or like I said, if it's a response to something or just some actual client documents, you can ask people to upload those. Again, that would be not required because not every assignment is going to have that. Sometimes people just don't want to be bothered to actually go and upload things if they're just in a flow and they're just trying to get things knocked out. So, okay. And then the task description, I actually usually put that somewhere down here, but maybe before the files and Dropbox links or whatever. So task description, I just say, additional details. I usually is what I like to call it, and that's going to go in the description area of the task window. So, that might be some special instructions or, just an explanation of the assignment, giving a little context to it or whatever you need. So that's really helpful. And that's just a text field. So it can go long or short or whatever. So it's just a good field. That doesn't have to be required. I'm on the fence about it. I think it could be helpful, but not essential to have that required. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right. So now we have our form. How do we use it? Coming up next. All right, so we've built our beautiful form. How do we use this? Again, so I mentioned earlier that there's this editing tab and there's a viewing tab. So you have a couple of choices. You can navigate to the list, find the view, that's the assignments view, and then you can use the viewing to actually submit the assignment. So that's one way, but not everybody lives in ClickUp like I do, but not everybody does. So what's an easier way for people to quickly access the form? So when we go to our viewing tab, we see the form we just built, and we can actually use this now to type in and actually submit an assignment. And like I said, that's great. If you're in ClickUp a lot, you can favorite this view by clicking on the little ellipsis up here. So we can just click on that to add favorites. So we always have this form. If we're in ClickUp, it's right there for us whenever we want it. But I find the best use of this is actually going to be sharing it. So we can copy this link, and like I said, we can bookmark it, or we can use it across, keep it wherever you keep, handy websites that you use a lot, and share it across, anybody who needs that form and who's going to be accessing tasks on that list can use the form. You can use it to submit your own assignments to yourself. I do that all the time. So I'm going to switch to an incognito window so that you can see that how it pulls up. So let me just switch. All right, so I have a Cognito window. I copied the link, so now I'm just going to cut and paste it. And here is our beautiful form that we created. So now I'm going to type in a task name. So, maybe it's draft complaint for breach of contract. Again, maybe there's more causes of action. That's something you would add in the details later. This is in the matter of, Smith v. Food Corps. And priority, this is something that's pretty high. We want it done maybe by the end of the week. It's going to be assigned by me, and the assignee is also going to be me. Time estimate, I think it should take maybe 4 hours because we just need to do some facts estimating with back and forth with the client. But maybe if you've done a lot of these before and they're pretty rote, then maybe that would be shorter, whatever. Or if it's really complex, and there's going to be research involved as well, then you're going to want to, adjust that time estimate. Select due date. When do you need this by? We said it was pretty high priority, so maybe needs to be done by next Friday. And here is where we get to the additional details. So we say, we want to add causes of action for restitution, or so restitution, and make sure to attach contract as an exhibit, anything else that you think would be helpful for the associate or whoever's getting this assignment to know about the assignment. And again, like I said, if you've got Dropbox links or NetDocs links or whatever, OneDrive, SharePoint, links, you could put those there for easy access. If you've got, sample files, like I might say, see attached sample. You could also say, see sample in the Jones v. Food core matter. So, you can do, and then you could either upload it there or direct someone, hey, go here to find this. And then we're going, and it's going to ask us, do we want to submit another one? Submit another one. We don't need to submit another. So now I'm going to pop back over to my ClickUp and I want to show you what that looks like in ClickUp. All right, so now I'm back on my list view and I've got a bunch of assignments. I have something to draft complaint for breach of contract. Okay, so I've got I can see all my fields here. I know it's my assignment. It's due on the 11th. It's high priority. There's the matter name for me, so I know where to bill my time. If I don't have any file, website links or anything there, I don't have any documents uploaded, but remember in the task description, I put in where to go look for files. So click on here, open up this task. And so here's the task window and there's my name here. I've got my due date, my time estimate, all that good stuff. And here's the matter name, assigned by, and then here's the description. So those additional details. I didn't put in a lot because I just wanted to demo this for you all, but you could put in a lot of details there, as many details as you want, and fill that in. And those are really important. It can be instructions, it could be links, it could be what any background information, whatever it is, you can put that right. That'll just go right from that task, from that form, right into the task description. So that's a really helpful tool too. So now I have got this assignment, and you can set up notifications, or however that who's ever getting these assignments has to make sure, they're checking there and making sure they're actually checking that list or getting notified of these new assignments. And that, of course, is key. And then we have that information, everything is stored in the task. And if you, as the assigning attorney, want to go back in and add some details, you'd know where to find them, and you could go back in there and do that too. There is no way to use the form to update a task. Every time you use the form, it is going to create a new task. So just bear that in mind. So that's a tour of the ClickUp forms and how to use those to assign work to other people on your team. I find it's really, really effective. Like I said, as a freelancer, I use it all the time for different clients. I have different forms on different lists that are linked to my particular client. And then I actually use a folder view. And if this all just sounds like too much nonsense, then I'm going to do a video on walking you through the hierarchy. I've done one, but I want to do a little more with it to really dive into how these forms and other kinds of things relate to using the different levels of the hierarchy, what you need to see where. So that's another video for another day, but you might want to check out the hierarchy video in general. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, please leave them down below. There's some links if you want to see how ClickUp might be a good fit for you and your practice group, then be sure to book a call with me. There is a link in the description. There's also some important disclaimers because I'm a lawyer. We have to have disclaimers. And anything else, you just let me know. And thank you so much.